Hi friends, and welcome back to another video. Today I want to talk about some summer fantasy book recommendations. So this is all purely based on vibes, but I thought that I would make a list. I have 7 books and or series on this list that I think are perfect to read in the summer for various reasons, mostly based on the feeling of them, but I will explain my logic for each pick. Okay, so the first book on this list is one that I don't have a physical copy of because I did get it from the library when I read it, but that is The Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires by Grady Hendrix. So this is I am slotting it into fantasy, but it is more horror. However, it does have kind of that supernatural element, and I think that it can just be lumped into speculative for sure. So The Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires looks at this sort of group of women who are meant to be like, respectable housewife type of deal, who they kind of form this friendship group in their neighborhood. And there is this man who moves into the neighborhood who kind of like charms and endears his way into the hearts of like most of the neighborhoods. But our main character has the suspicion that that he is a vampire. I don't remember how fully fleshed out this suspicion is early on, but our main character certainly gets the feeling that something is wrong and is off about this man, and that people and or like younger teenagers could be in danger. And this is a very interesting book because it kind of dances around things for a lot of it, but it does have some really kind of like visceral horror as well, like body horror and like creatures, and I don't know, like I found it very unsettling. And the reason that I think this is a great summer read is because, it's in the title, but it does take place in the South, and it just kind of has this overall arching feeling of like a hot summer day where like the haze and humidity is kind of like hanging over everybody, and that's just sort of like the feeling that you get throughout the entire book, or at least that's how I remember it. And so I feel like this is a great seasonal read. Next up, we have the David Bad Trilogy by S.A. Chakraborty, which opens with The City of Brass. So this is about our main character, Nari, who grows up as a con woman on the streets of Cairo, Egypt, but something goes wrong in one of her kind of like cons, and she accidentally ends up summoning a djinn, and she finds out that she may have ties to a world that is not human, and that is in fact very magical, and that world kind of opens up to you throughout the series as the plot continues and Nari makes more discoveries about who she is. So the reason that I think that this is a great summer read is just because this entire series takes place of course Cairo is in northern Egypt, but this whole series takes place in like Egypt and in the Middle East, and there is this very I like to call this series vibrant because I think that the mythology that it's pulling from and everything about it just have this sort of like overall warmth to them. There is a hot setting pretty much throughout. There's a lot of desert, but it's really just a feeling that you get while you're reading this. And I started reading this in February, and that didn't dim my enjoyment of it, but I just feel like it fits in so well with summer because it just kind of like matches up to the feelings so well, and the level of magic in here and the way that the people dress and the cultures that live in this area of the world, they feel very compatible with like heat and reading it on a hot summer's day. So I feel like this would be a great series to read throughout the summer. Next up is a book that I feel like kind of has beach read vibes in the sense that it's kind of like an easy breezy read while also being like heartwarming. And I don't even remember if this takes place in the summer. I don't think that it does, or maybe it doesn't really matter. It's more the feeling that it gives you, like the warm inside feeling, and that is The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches by Sangu Mandana. And so the reason that I say I don't even know if it takes place in the summer is because it does take place in the UK. So even if it did take place in the summer, it wouldn't necessarily even be like hot, I guess. But for me, the reason for this is just because you have the story of Mika Moon, our main character, who is contacted to maybe potentially take on the role of a caretaker to 3 young witches who are living together kind of at this like house that is secret, because witches are not supposed to congregate together in this world. They're supposed to stay separate so that they won't get discovered. And so it's very like highly irregular to have 3 young witches living together, and Mika is intrigued and kind of like takes on this job and forms relationships with the people who live in the house and who already take care of the girls. She forms relationships with the young girls themselves, and like, I don't know, it's sort of like House in the Cerulean Sea vibes, except witches. And I think that this is like, I don't know, it's a very, very cute, fun, fast read that I just feel like is compatible with enjoying it in the summer. Next up, we have the Rook and Rose trilogy, which begins with The Mask of Mirrors by M.A. Carrick. And this one, honestly, I have less of a rationale for. I think for me, it's just the feeling of this series. It feels very fun and intricate, and like the characters are awesome. They are complex and dynamic, and they kind of get up to some like complicated like heists and stuff, and they're doing all this backstabbing and like identity, like secret identity stuff, or like dual or triple identities, and there's so many secrets, and there's like dynamic relationships and dynamic plot, and I just think that it fits well into a summer vibe. And I think maybe that's just because I don't think it fits into a winter vibe. Like for some reason this series feels warm to me, and that's the best way I can describe it. Now, having said that, the next series that I want to recommend is A Chorus of Dragons by Jen Lyons, which kicks off with The Ruin of Kings, and I basically have the same thing to say about this one. They are not like overtly similar series by any means. However, with this fitting into summer in my brain, I think it's just because this series just like has this warmth about it, and it's about like kind of how the characters care about each other, and about like the high stakes and the high action and the fast moving plot. Like all of these things, they kind of just fit into hot summer vibes for me. But I think for this one, it has that warmth, but it's also the like fun lovingness of this series. It just feels like summer activities and having fun on a summer's day. The next book that I want to recommend is Ring Shout by P. Jelly Clark, which is fantasy horror. And this is essentially a look at people who fight these monsters called Ku Kluxes, which are essentially like actual monstrous like representations of the KKK. Like if a KKK member, their heart and soul is kind of so black, they can become these monsters. And this is like a group of black women who kind of fight these demons basically. And this is sort of set in like the deep south of the States, and it has an overall feeling of like I was mentioning about the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. It's just this setting where it has this overall feeling of like a very hot day, and like the haze and the humidity and the warmth, and I get that vibe throughout the entire book. And it's the way the town is described and the way the people are described and the things that they do, like going to an ice cream parlor. Like this is very much horror, but it does fit into the summer. And then the last summer recommendation that I have is Each of Us a Desert by Mark Oshiro. And so in this one, we follow our main character, Sochil, who is, did they use the word quintista? She is a storyteller for her like community. And so she takes people's stories and she takes kind of like their pain and in some way like their memories, and this whole book is set in like a community that lives in the desert, and her and some others end up going on this quest across the desert. And it's a very kind of like emotional story for our main character, and a very like a story of their personal development, but it does have this setting that I think is perfect for reading in the summer, and I think will make you feel very immersed in it. So those are the 7 books that I wanted to talk about. So please let me know in the comments if you have some summer fantasy book recommendations that you would like to give to me and to anyone else watching this. I would love to hear from you. Please like this video if you liked it. Subscribe if you'd like to see more from me. I post videos on most Mondays and Thursdays, and as always, I will have my Discord and socials linked in the description, and I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. Bye!